So I'm going to be 100% honest with this video, because before the plan was to outright lie and say that the reason why this is so late is because we have bad time management skills. But the situation with this Q&A, or not a Q&A, this roasting session for your opinions has gotten so like unbelievably out of control that telling you this true story is worth it. When we hit 10,000 subscribers a few months back, I wanted to do the same thing that I did when we hit 1,000 subscribers, which is ask all of you for your unpopular hot takes, unpopular opinions, and basically roast them. We filmed that video very, very soon after we hit 10,000 subscribers because we were excited. Lo and behold, I am a fucking idiot. So even though my girlfriend and I sat down for an hour straight and answered most of these questions, or as many of them as we could, I single-handedly fucked everything up by deleting the file. I just assumed that this was an audio we had already used. I dragged it into the recycle bin. God gave me a second chance by having it be in the recycle bin for a while, so you can always recover it. I went in and said, fuck you, God, I don't want this audio, and I deleted this audio. So then we went, okay, why don't we just record it again? A month and a half later, I wrangled Sophie back into the room. I gave her a microphone. I said, Sophie, let's make another one of these.
Pretend we've never seen these questions before.
The plan was to pretend we'd never done it. The plan was to basically be like, sorry it took so long, but we were disorganized or whatever the fuck. And we did another 40 minutes of conversation.
And I was halfway through editing that file because now finally it had reached my computer.
Yes, because I decided to not delete this one. I whacked it onto your computer and we were like, okay, it's in safe hands. This is going to be good. Then, the week after, I think it was, we went on a small vacation, as people do in August. And we went to Spain. We went to the south of Spain to Formentera. God, vengeful that I had disregarded his chance to not delete the first Q&A, said, well, get fucked. I'm going to send down a historically bad storm to where you are. Bear in mind, we're in the middle of the ocean. We're living on a boat for this vacation. We're 1 week on a boat. We haven't touched land. Day 2 or 3 of this excursion. Sophie's first time on a boat. We lived through one of the strongest storms the Mediterranean has ever seen. It's by far the worst storm that I have ever lived through. Sophie's first time on a boat is now seeing the boat rock back and forth to the point where you're now seeing sky, then you're seeing sea, then you're seeing sky. Plates are breaking. We don't know how much danger we're in. The captain is nowhere to be seen. It's fucking hailing. The waves are 5 meters tall. All the boats around us, every now and then we see one, and they just look like they're about to fucking capsize and die. This storm has killed more than like 20 people across the Mediterranean, I think. And we're stuck in this storm with Sophie's laptop in our room. And because we didn't predict that there was going to be such a bad storm, we put the laptop right below the window to our room. And what happens when you combine an open window, a laptop, and 5 meter tall waves? You get a broken MacBook, basically. Is basically what you get. This is the reason why we're going to try and find some of the unpopular opinions we didn't read to keep this a little bit fresh. If your question or your comment doesn't make it into this video, please know that somewhere deep at sea or in some weird cloud after a recycle bin has been emptied, your question was there, and it was probably very interesting.
So welcome to 15k subscribers.
Yeah, so let's just do it for... Yeah. So this is 15,000 subscriber special with the comments and the hot takes from 10,000 subscribers. Sophie, how are you feeling? How's the energy for doing this a third time?
This is reaching your ears because of me. Because a third time, you didn't want to do it.
I was ready to just let go.
AC3 is only liked by the community because of its setting, American Revolutionary War, as its plot is simply horrible.
Ooh, this is very controversial because the world is divided very cleanly in two when it comes to Assassin's Creed 3. You have the Americans who only like AC3 because it's set in a revolutionary war in the US. And then you have a bunch of otherworlders like Europeans, Asians, Africans, and Australians who generally aren't that interested in AC3 because they're not that moved by the setting. They then do find redeeming qualities in the game. I'm not saying that every American only likes the game because of the setting, but it is true that when I talk to a lot of Americans who played Assassin's Creed, if they played AC3, the reason they usually give is just because they were interested in the setting, because it's something that they study in high school, and seeing it come to life in a video game was one of the first times that I think Ubisoft saw the draw that a setting alone could have outside of the Assassin's Creed IP. Because before that, they were making settings in a lot of places that if you weren't a history nerd, or you weren't a very particular type of history nerd that liked the Renaissance or the Third Crusade, it was really just the Assassin's Creed action game that you were buying the game for. But I think AC3 was when you first saw that a bunch of people would just buy the game if the setting kind of had any relevance to something that you had an interest in outside of gaming. That being said, I think a lot of people who like AC3 that are not in the US really could not give a shit about the setting. I kind of count myself in that crowd. I don't give a shit about the Revolutionary War. I think it's a very interesting setting with a lot of interesting arguments to be made, and it's a very good backdrop, but it was certainly not a draw at all. I think the main draw for me was Connor and how cool he looked, and the open world. I think that the improvements they made to the animations, the combat, the traversal through trees, and how much bigger it was than all the other ACs was kind of what drew me to it. I think you're right in your opinion, but it depends on which side of the world you are.
AC Mirage not having any modern day is a good thing. I love modern day stories, and I think they're essential for most AC games and for the franchise as a whole. But if the devs and designers don't think they can put effort into crafting a cohesive, well-written modern day story, then they should just skip it and give us the best parts of the game outside of the modern day, which Mirage did excellently.
Yes, 100%. This is an example of how you can keep Assassin's Creed loyal to its identity while still making any necessary sacrifices. I love the modern day, just like this person said, but focus and scope when you're making a video game with limited budget and limited time is so crucial, and it was such an obvious decision that I'm glad they made to not try and stretch themselves too thin, give an authentic Assassin's Creed story in one time period and not try and do too much at once. I think that Bordeaux would handle modern day beautifully, and what gives me the hope that they would is that they decided not to when they knew they wouldn't. AC Bordeaux has so much potential as a studio that is filled with Assassin's Creed fans, and I really want to see what they do. But I agree that the modern day not being in this game was the correct choice. This is more of a side game, kind of like a breath in between Valhalla and Shadows, and focusing on giving a tight experience within Baghdad is definitely the best choice.
Assassin's Creed Syndicate's music is so good. I wish London was real.
I've got wonderful news for you. London is in fact real. You can actually go and visit it. It's in a place called the UK.
So this comment has 12 legs and no one
has informed him that London exists.
Yeah.
The internet kind of pretends that London or the UK is just not real, you know. Syndicate music is actually not good. It's actually bad. It's well composed and it's good from a composition standpoint, and the recordings are also very good, but I just do not think it fits the setting whatsoever. I think it turns it into this whimsical Charles Dickens tale just through the music, because music can really change the tone of a game. And if you look at the music in AC Syndicate when it's dark and somber, or there's no music at all, you have a much more interesting game than when it goes into like this whimsical fucking spiral with some of the music. So I'm not the biggest fan of AC Syndicate music, but I cannot deny that from a compositional standpoint, it's definitely, you know, as always with Ubisoft, the music and the environment is just always world class.
Haytham is the best villain of the series. He should have been the protagonist of AC Rogue, giving a flashback of how Edward was betrayed and showing how Haytham joined the Templars. His wit and dialogue delivery is unmatched. He's better than Ezio as a character.
He was cooking right until the end. Man was chefing. And then he fumbled the bag to a legendary degree. Haytham is amazing as a character. The voice actor does a lot of the heavy lifting for that, but he's very interestingly written, especially in AC3. So I agree that he probably is the greatest villain. Maybe Torres from AC4, but probably not even. I will say that I agree with Haytham having to be the protagonist for Assassin's Creed Rogue, because, you know, they call it the Kenway saga. You have the first game, which focuses on Connor Kenway. Then you have Assassin's Creed Black Flag, which focuses on Edward Kenway. And then to finish it off, you could just beautifully make a game about the man in between, the man in the middle that was pulled at either side and was conflicted his whole life and became a Templar because of his resentment towards his father, whatever. And you make a game on Haytham Kenway, and you truly have a Kenway saga. But somehow, for some reason, you make a game about Shay, who I don't mind, like, he's a cool protagonist, but imagine an entire game with Haytham Kenway. You just focus the story around him, make it a few years earlier maybe, or honestly right after, and you just have Shay be someone that he recruits, but you just tell the whole story through the perspective of Haytham Kenway. It would have made for a much more interesting game, I think, and one that sold better as well, because a lot of fans of Haytham would have bought that game. But he's not a better protagonist than Ezio. You have to understand, Ezio is one of the greatest protagonists in fiction. He was written so perfectly, especially towards the latter end of his like career as a protagonist. We've seen his whole life. His career. I don't know how to phrase it. You know what I mean? Like the years. The years in which he was in the spotlight as the poster boy of AC. One thing doesn't take away from the other, but Haytham is not a better protagonist than Ezio, I'm afraid.
Okay, but can you give reasons for like what was so good about the way he was written?
It's not just about the way he was written, because as I say, like, Haytham is one of the best written characters in Assassin's Creed, but Haytham is never the protagonist in any game. He appears in AC3 and you play as him at the beginning, and then he kind of like reappears towards the end of the game, and then you see him a little bit in AC Rogue, and he's much more of like a by the numbers villain by then. And he's written beautifully, don't get me wrong, but the hours of exposure, the hours of playtime, the hours of development, the time in his life that you spend with him compared to Ezio, who you see literally be born to literally die. You see all of that. And through all of that, he's written beautifully. There are very few moments in the Ezio trilogy where he's written badly. There's a couple moments in Revelations and a couple moments, I think, in AC2. But for the most part, he's just so well written all the time.
I think that segues well into this next question.
Nice.
My opinion is that you can take any protagonist of this series, give them 3 games, and any player would bond with that character as much as we all seem to with Ezio. Imagine Edward had 3 games, or Arno. If there were a 3-game arc with Eivor, Valhalla would be everyone's favorite game.
That's crazy. The way he typed that, he read it, and then he pressed send. That's what he did. That's crazy. If there was a 3-game arc with Eivor, Valhalla would be everyone's favorite game. He wrote that.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think it's a good argument for you to debate against.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, I disagree. I disagree, but I also agree. I do think that one of the main reasons we are so close to Ezio is because we had 3 games. And this is something that I hated that Ashraf Ismail kind of argued with AC Origins, because when AC Origins came out, just so Sophie knows, right after the game came out, everyone was fucking obsessed with the game. They loved it, and they were so certain that there was going to be a sequel for Bayek. And we were like, fuck yes, everyone loves Bayek. He's an amazing character. They've teased a sequel in the game. We're getting a sequel. We're getting a trilogy with Bayek. Everything's going to be amazing. And then Ashraf Ismail started tweeting you've gotten 60 hours with Bayek. Every Ezio game is 20 hours long and you had 3. So you had as many hours with Ezio as you did with Bayek. And it's okay, it's not just that, because so many of those hours are side content and fetch quests, which do not make you bond with a character. Second of all, having to wait and anticipate and be excited for a new release adds to that. Having 60 hours at once will not give you the same amount of bonding as 20 hours and then waiting a year and a half and then 20 hours and then waiting another year and then 20 hours, where you can bond and you can think and you can analyze and you can digest what you experience, especially when those 20 hours are much more curated than the 60 hours that you get. So I do think that Ezio having 3 games for us to bond over was one of the main reasons why we're so close to Ezio. But it is not true, I think, and it could never ever be true by that rationale, that any game or any protagonist that is given 3 games would make us as close to Ezio. And the examples he gave are kind of twisted because those are people's favorite protagonists. So yes, if you gave Edward 3 games, if you gave Arnos 3 games, and you wrote them as well as you wrote the Ezio games, we could be as attached to Ezio and Edward in general. Obviously everyone's going to have their preference, but in general we could be. But if you gave 3 games to fucking Connor, or even the Fry twins, you wouldn't be anywhere near as attached, because they're not written properly. They're not characters that people liked from the start, and even if you could salvage it, the amount of legwork you would have to put in to get them near Ezio levels is astronomical.
Okay, let me ask you this. If you had 3 games with Arno, and each of the games were as well written as Unity.
Unity is not well written.
Oh.
No.
But Arno is only in Unity.
Yes.
But he's a good character.
He's a liked character.
Okay, well, just the character then. That same quality you had for 2 more games, would that reach Ezio level?
I would argue that yes. And again,
Okay.
I'm biased as fuck because I really like Unity. There's some people who cannot stand Unity who would be like, no, what the fuck are you talking about? So I am biased in this. But Arno at the end of the Dead Kings DLC specifically is prime for a sequel. He's just about process the death for Elise. There's nothing holding him back in the way that AC Unity holds him back, because Arno is so close to becoming a cool assassin and a cool character, but he's constantly just simping for this woman Elise who does not pay any sort of attention to him, and the whole game kind of just loses itself in that subplot. Now that Elise is out of the picture, sadly through dying, but someone had to do it, you see how he progresses in Dead Kings, how the tone gets darker, how he starts to process that loss, and he starts to focus and delve and dedicate his life to the assassin cause. That's exactly where you would want a post-French Revolution sequel to Assassin's Creed Unity, which I think could have been amazing, because you could have had Arno hunting Shay. This is one of the games that people wanted. Shay killed Arno's father. Like, the ending of AC Rogue ends with Shay killing Arno's father, which is how AC Unity begins. So it would be a great sequel to then have Arno hunt down Shay as an old man or whatever. So yeah, I definitely 100% think that Arno could reach poster boy status if he was given the right treatment.
I hate Ubisoft being afraid of sticking to one time period or protagonist for
dude.
More than one game.
And you know what's fucking crazy?
What?
You want to know how share price is doing?
Yeah.
It's $1 billion company, bear in mind. So you should have enough analysts and consultants to make what someone would consider to be a good decision. But this is what Ubisoft has been doing consistently for the past 3 years. Ubisoft's stock price in 2014, which is when AC Unity came out, was $3, okay? AC Unity came out, which was a fucking disaster, and it didn't tank the stock price that much. From 2014 to 2018, Ubisoft stock price went from $3 to $24. So if you had invested $1 into Ubisoft in 2014, you would have like $8 by the time you reached 2018. So in 4 years.
When did Origins come out, and when did
Origins
Odyssey
came out. Origins came out in 2018, and that's
So
when the
all of
stock
this was
price
before?
peaked.
Oh.
But the whole rise was before. Since 2018, with granted a second peak in 2021 at $20, Ubisoft stock price is now at $3.
No way.
It is at the exact same place it was 10 years ago. Can you fucking believe that? And I pull this up because that's the point. Like, why doesn't Ubisoft change the strategy, especially one that was clearly working in the latter half of the 2010s?
Wait, so the decline began in 2000, how much?
2020. It's been declining consistently since 2021 after COVID, which makes sense, you know, because COVID, everyone was inside playing games.
Yeah,
so
but everyone at the same time like bounced back.
Everyone bounced back.
Yeah.
And Ubisoft hasn't. And Ubisoft is in very big trouble. And obviously, you know, the stock price does not reflect the company, and they're two separate things and two separate vital signs. But it is a very good indicator of public sentiment towards Ubisoft. So I agree. I don't know why Ubisoft doesn't stick to 3 games and create sequels. And again, I think their strategy is changing. And I think that the next few years of Assassin's Creed are going to be very interesting. They're hoping to put out games more often, I think. But it truly is just mind-boggling how much potential they left behind for games that everyone admits, even Ubisoft fans, that are so fucking copy-paste. Star Wars has failed miserably. People really do not like Star Wars, and apparently hasn't sold that well. And again, it's not completely their fault. I think people overall are getting so fucking tired of Star Wars, but I think a lot of it is their fault. And if AC Shadows fails, a lot of people are saying they might have to sell.
Sell
Yeah.
AC as a franchise?
No, Ubisoft, like the company.
Well, that could be good.
It could be extremely good,
worse.
or it could be extremely bad. But it'll be different, and I think people want that. So, you know, just a side tangent regarding decisions. But what do we know? We're 2 fucking people in a bedroom, you know?
If Assassin's Creed was made by a different developer like Rockstar or Santa Monica Studios, they would be an even bigger and more successful franchise than they already are.
See, this is one of those if statements that I do not think has any value, because not because I don't think
I love that. Remember, this is a roasting video.
No, but it's not because I don't necessarily disagree. It's because I don't think that Rockstar would ever make an AC game. Honestly, in defense of Ubisoft, I don't think any company except Ubisoft would be capable of making an AC game. Not in the current formulation, because these are RPG Witcher clones, and it's not what AC is about, in my opinion, of course. But what they made in 2007 to 2010, 2011, no other company has been able to replicate that level of parkour system. The work and the innovation they did with motion matching technology, the predictive jump abilities, the parkour system that they designed, no game company has been able to do. To this day, there are very few third-person parkour systems that come close. So Rockstar would definitely make a better video game, but Assassin's Creed was an innovation by Ubisoft that changed open world games forever, and they did it best back then. So I really don't think that Rockstar could have made that kind of movement system. I don't think they'd have any interest in trying, and I think that it was really Ubisoft and their initial team that pioneered something very, very difficult to replicate in the games industry.
And why is the parkour system so difficult to replicate?
Because the mathematics required for it to function are insane. Like, if you look at AC Unity from a game development perspective, the fact that the game exists at all is insane. That game should not exist. And the more I learn about game development, the more I realize this. The amount of things you have to account for when you have a parkour system whose premise for the parkour system is you can go anywhere at any time and climb anything and jump onto anything from anywhere. That proposition is crazy enough alone, but then you throw into the mix, oh, it's an open world that reflects a real city. So you have to have a system that can predict where the player wants to go at all times, make them feel like they're the ones making the jumps towards that, but also like automatically snap the player character to that location in a realistic way. It has to measure all the heights of every object and play the relevant animation at the relevant time so that you can climb that object or jump over that object. And you have to do it in a world that has width, depth, and height at all times. That can get complicated very quickly the more you stack elements on top of each other. Like, you're running around and you suddenly jump on a beam, but maybe there's a beam next to it. How does the game know that you didn't want to jump to that beam? Then you can vault over this or jump over that or slide under this and climb this wall, but how do you know that it doesn't want to go into that wall? How do you know if you want to go into a window or not? How do you know that if I jump from this height, it has to play this animation and then land here and snap into this? Just the math and the code that you need for that, and it really peaks in AC Unity, is insane. AC Unity is by far not a very accurate system, and the older games are are much more accurate, but they're also much simpler. AC Unity should not exist. Like, I don't know what the fuck they did to make that game work, but if you go into the code, or even if you just look at the animation, like there's a program called AC Viewer that allows you to like look at all the animations that they have for Assassin's Creed, and some modders like are really fully going into it to see everything. The amount of animations you have for this game, like, it's just so dumb. You just can't do it.
How cool.
It's so fucking cool. Like, it gives me so much respect for AC Unity the more I understand like what it takes to do that.
In Prince of Persia, Sands of Time, the Vizier was a Templar and the dagger/hourglass were Isu artifacts.
That would be cool. I think, Sophie, do you know the backstory with Prince of Persia and Assassin's Creed?
Yeah.
Tell me.
So AC1 was supposed to be a Prince of Persia, not DLC, but like sequel.
Oh, yes.
And then it became its own thing.
Yes, it did. It was supposed to be a game called Prince of Persia Assassins, where you play as the bodyguard of the prince trying to save the prince. And it quickly became its own IP called Assassin's Creed, which, by the way, is such a good fucking title.
It's such a good title.
Assassin's Creed, the creed of the assassins. That's so fucking good. What was it? Oh yeah, it's not, but it would be cool if it was. It'd be cool if Prince of Persia was like in the same universe as AC. And they could have done it, I think, if they changed a few things here and there, because, you know, you could have these. I mean, AC Odyssey is basically magic, so there's nothing stopping Prince of Persia from being part of this. But yeah, no.
Taurus is top 3 best antagonists in the series.
Yes. In AC1, you don't really have any serious antagonist that could be like, you know, well written. Al-Malim, you know, is a twist that I like, but you're not going to put in top 3, I think. And Robert de Sable also not in the top 3, I think. They're too one-dimensional, in my opinion. There is a lot of philosophy, but it's very accessible, and there's not a lot there to dig into. I think the Borgia enemies are definitely in the top 3. Probably Rodrigo. Hatham, top 3, probably top spot. And then Torres is really good as well, yeah.
It would have been better if assassins wore normal outfits like civilians with hidden blade, really hidden.
No, it fucking wouldn't. Like, 67.3% of the appeal that you have about Assassin's Creed is the aesthetics. Like, Assassin's Creed draws you in because of how things look, because of how the way you look makes you feel. The cloaks and the hoods and the hidden blades and the parkour and the flips and everything that realistically would not help an assassin at all is so much of why Assassin's Creed is cool. Yes, in a real world, dressing like a normal civilian will help your mission to blend in and be one with the crowd much more. But, you know, in the game, you just suspend your disbelief for a little bit and you're playing as a cool assassin monk, and that's cool.
AZ Mirage's parkour is better than Unity. Fight me.
I remember this comment. This is Ropotopotopotopolis. This is my boy. If you guys don't know Ropotopolis, he's like a goated AC YouTuber who does a lot of parkour, usually around Mirage, but the Ezio trilogy as well. He makes Mirage parkour specifically look unbelievably good for the system that he was given to work with. So I really recommend that all of you go and subscribe to him. He's a really nice dude. He's a very funny guy, and also extremely talented at Assassin's Creed parkour. I disagree with him. I love AC Unity parkour, and I think it's way better than AC Mirage for a million reasons. But if there's anyone on this planet that could tell me and try and convince me, or have a right to say that AC Mirage is better than AC Unity parkour, it's him, because he does some true magic with AC Mirage parkour. But I think that if you don't mod either of the games and you look at their parkour systems, AC Unity just has too much style and flair and optionality and honestly control that AC Mirage does not give you, because it binds all your actions to X. So when you're trying to utilize all the dimensions of, you know, height, width, and depth across the level, AC Unity just does that better, in my opinion. But AC Mirage parkour is A, much better than people give it credit for, and B, probably better than AC Unity in the hands of Robotopolis, and when it's modded, but for the most part, no.
Both the assassins and the Templars are wrong. It's a struggle between the two ideals, societal order and individual free will, that drives culture and social progress.
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn. The scholarly sergeant here. The fucking book baron, bro. I didn't know we had the philosopher. I think they are both wrong, but I also don't think that it's very easy to say that both can coexist. I think the push and pull of it drives society and culture, but that doesn't mean that they are working together. I think it's rather the belief from either side that they are right that leads to the kind of like middle that drives that change. But I don't think it's a change brought from collaboration or agreement, that a little bit of both is good.
I don't know, but I just know that they felt very smart right
now. They fucking loved it. They pressed enter with a smug smile and then read a book or something.
Odyssey. Let people design their own side quests. The next step would be to let people design their own levels so that people could create and share parkour obstacle courses, climbing puzzles, and rooftop running layouts. Just play Sim.
What?
No?
Dude, You missed so badly.
Well,
I want you
I'm
to keep.
gonna
No.
I'm gonna cut this out.
I
Not
want you
gonna
to
be in
keep
the
this in
video.
the edit because that was such an L take. That was, dude. Did you say play Sims like The Sims?
So he wants to build his own world.
No, he said his own levels. Like if you're designing a new level with like buildings and such, so you can run through it and create your own missions. That's not Sims. Sims is creating your own character and giving it a life and making it go to work and pay taxes.
A game where you build your own world. That's literally what he's suggesting. Is he not suggesting that?
No, he's not.
I'm gonna cut this out.
He's suggesting that within the game, you have an option to create your own missions for players. So a player can go and say, okay, this player has used the assets from the game to create a town in which there's a target, and you can play a mission that is user generated, because that's kind of like the next step from Odyssey, where you could use the world to kind of create your own side quests. And the answer is Ubisoft probably won't do that, but modders are starting to really understand how to use AC Viewer to create or at least manipulate where the props are in games. So in a couple years, I think, or maybe one, I think modders will create their own levels within AC Unity and the Ezio trilogy. Because a modder called Slider V2 is already doing some pretty cool stuff with that.
Okay, but sure, modders can do whatever they want. But me as a player, I don't want to have that much freedom. I like having an established... Well, I'm not a player, okay?
I was going to start with that. You've played like 10 seconds of Mirage and saw Ezio run around.
I've done Hogwarts Legacy, okay?
You've played one video game in your life, and it's Hogwarts Legacy.
So you're not going to roast this opinion, I'm sensing.
What do you mean? The one that he said?
Yeah.
I'm going to roast yours, not his. I think it'd be cool, mainly because it's an option. There are some people who are not professionals or don't want to be professionals that are very talented. If you give them the tools to create levels, they could create some of the best stealth levels and assassinations that have ever been made. Like if you give tools to general players who just don't have a career in game design or don't have the backing of a AAA studio but can use tools to create a cool level. Kind of, yeah, but for Assassin's Creed, like you making it with the gameplay loop of like, parkour and stealth. But yeah, that was horrible performance from you.
Assassin's Creed Shadows art direction from the screenshots gives me the feeling it'll be the same game as the previous 3 but with the Japanese paint on. It didn't look distinct enough. I agree with this.
Yeah, we kind of spoke about this in the trailer review video we did. I don't think it's the art direction. I think the art direction is quite nice. Like the way they built the world is quite nice. I just think that they're using the same rendition of the engine in the same way. They're keeping so many of the same mechanics. They're reusing so many assets. And I think that overall it's at a much more fundamental level that this game seems like a mild iteration of the last 3 games. And the last 3 games are so long. And we've had these games since 2018. So it's not very exciting to just see slightly different versions of that. Even though I am curious about AC Shadows, and of course I'll be playing it, I do think that they could have done a lot more to make it look a lot more next gen and like the new phase of Assassin's Creed. And they didn't do that. And I don't know why.
Odyssey is 100 times better than Valhalla. I think this is interesting, comparing the two like RPGs.
That's interesting because everyone always says, oh, Origins is better, which is like a given. But which is better between Valhalla and Odyssey?
Exactly, that's what I mean. Yeah. So the rest of the comment says, the build system is just so much better and meaningful than Valhalla. In Odyssey, every single engraving matters. Damage with swords, critical damage.
Dude.
Whereas in Valhalla, you pretty much deal the same damage no matter what armor set you wear. There's a lot more to read. No, because I know where this is going. And listen, I agree with you, but this is not the channel to talk about fucking engraving and critical damage. Like, I could not give a shit about the poison damage that this sword has versus the fire damage that you have on the 5th hit of every 10th try against the different enemies and the fucking plus 10% crit chance of your new helmet or whatever the fuck. I do not give a shit about any of that when it comes to Assassin's Creed. So none of that to me is what makes Odyssey a better game. In fact, I couldn't give a shit about any of that in any game. I don't want to spend my free time checking out the stats of my helmet to see if every 5th hit I get a 10% health boost. Like, I can't, it's crazy that people like that, but I have to respect like people's taste and shit. But oh my fucking god, why do you want to see a number on the screen when you hit someone with a sword? Like, point being that yes, I agree with you. Odyssey is a better game than Valhalla. It's more mechanically sound. It's more bug-free, it's more consistent, it's more deep, the gameplay systems are deeper. The stealth is annoying because there's no guaranteed assassination, but you know, apart from that, it is 100% better than Valhalla. However, the story, Valhalla's story is way better than Odyssey's. Odyssey's story is just an absolute mess, tonally, in terms of consistency with the characters, in terms of plot, and Valhalla has a very good story that is bloated a little bit too much with uninteresting side plots. But the core story of Valhalla is one of my favorite, actually, in all of Assassin's Creed. I think I have a decently controversial one.
Okay.
Most AC games had really poor stealth and don't even try to make many missions about actually assassinating your targets. Origins had some of the best stealth because it actually lets you use it, unlike most of the Ezio trilogy, which is almost impossible to ghost through.
Okay. I think this is pretty controversial, but there's some merit to the argument. Ghosting should not be the measure by which you measure stealth. Like, there's many different types of stealth, and you shouldn't say if you can't ghost something, it doesn't have good stealth. That being said, AC's stealth, especially in the early days, is very unconventional. It's social stealth, based stealth, kind of like works with line of sight, it works with blending into crowds, it works with stealing and tailing and eavesdropping, and all of these things are the non-conventional types of stealth that you had back in the day. AC Origins has a much more conventional approach to stealth, but in AC Origins, stealth is a feature, just like in most modern day games. Like, stealth has been relegated to a feature in most games rather than the main selling point of a game. So yes, with AC Origins you can stealth kill with your bow, and there's lots of different techniques and stuff like that, and AC Origins stealth is very consistent, very reliable, and very good. But what made Assassin's Creed so interesting in terms of its stealth was the approach it had to it, with the blending in with crowds and social stealth, and also how you could incorporate movement into the stealth. That being said, it is true that you can't just play these games without being detected, and you're not always a sneaky assassin. There is a lot of action pieces and combat and auto detects and stuff like that people don't talk about, but you cannot compare it to, other traditional stealth games and criticize it for that, because AC does have very good stealth. It's just that it requires different things from you to be in stealth.
Most fans are blind to how Origins' story was constructed. It's inconsistent. By having two different writers, Bayek ended up having split personality disorder.
I mean, that's pure conjecture, but you do see Bayek oscillate a lot between personalities, and maybe that's a viable reason for it. But, you don't know in what capacity these two writers were writing the story. If they were doing half and half throughout, or if one of them did the first half and the other the second half, if one of them did the main story and the other one did the side quests. So maybe that's an explanation, if it requires one, because I don't think Bayek is that inconsistent. Like, I think, he has angry moments and he has good moments. But if there was to be discrepancies, that could be one possible explanation, which we'll never really know, if it is.
Why are you saying that it's just conjecture?
Because he doesn't know. It's not confirmed whether that's the explanation.
Okay, they're mentioning here a platypus video that kind of ruined the game for them.
I'll have to check it out, and maybe it's not conjecture, but I'd be shocked if Ubisoft outright admitted that Bayek is inconsistent and that this is why. So, but we can definitely watch it, because maybe I'm wrong. Like, I haven't watched it, so maybe there's info out there that I don't know.
I actually believe that Evie is a good protagonist, not Jacob though.
Is this the hidden one?
No.
Okay.
Why?
No, because the hidden one has Evie as his profile picture, and I think that he likes her as a protagonist.
Okay, but
and if it was the hidden one, I'd have to agree, because it's the hidden one. But
the second part of the question is not Jacob though. He's still trying to have a career in comedy.
Yeah, dude, I don't know who finds Syndicate funny, but it's not me, and it's probably not this guy.
Brotherhood and Revelations had no good reason to exist and essentially ruined AC2's ending unintentionally. Therefore, they should not have been made.
Damn, that's crazy. I have no idea how it would ruin AC2's ending. No, AC2's ending leads perfectly into Brotherhood and Revelations. Just because they weren't supposed to be made doesn't mean that there's no story to be told. That's how good sequels exist. You don't always have to tease a sequel for there to be a good sequel. In AC2, the villain of the story remains alive. You have all the unresolved drama upstairs in the Vatican while you're just chilling in some fucking random vault, and you want to see what happens after Ezio recovers the apple. That's like the first part of the story, and it teases the story with Desmond as well in the modern day, and Brotherhood is a huge step forward in terms of the modern day. So I think that Brotherhood and Revelations, both at a modern day level and at a Ezio level, are very, very relevant and very needed, and they do improve AC2.
I love tailing missions.
You're the only person in all of the world that likes tailing missions. No, I think that tailing missions are good every now and then. AC4 just fucking killed it for everyone, because every other mission is a tailing mission. I think that tailing missions are good when two conditions are satisfied. One, it is less than 5% of the missions available in the game. And two, failing a tailing mission does not fail the mission. It simply means the target runs away and you have to find him through some other means, or you have to find the information through some other mean. What I hated about tailing missions is that if you get detected, you have to do it all over again. And redoing a mission at which you can only move at a walking pace, intermittently stopping because some character wants to turn around, look for 5 seconds, and then turn back and keep on walking, is incredibly annoying. So I like tailing missions when you feel cool, and if you fuck up, it's not the end of the world. So that is it. Thank you for waiting so long for something that no one was waiting for or, excited for. But we finally got it out. Third time's the charm. Hopefully a storm didn't kill this audio. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for 10,000 subscribers. Thank you for 15,000 subscribers. And thank you for however many we'll have in the future. I don't know how to end this video. Oh, plugging a new video. I made a video talking about how much I love Assassin's Creed 1, and I recommend that you go and watch it right now.